Xoli, what reasons have we been given for the state sponsoring these particular acts of litigation?
So remember, Joanne, that the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, when he was responding to questions in Parliament on the 14th of this month, he said, responding to an EFF question about what legal prescripts were relied upon for government to reach such an agreement. And so that's where the President was caught up a bit, because he couldn't answer directly as to what were these legal prescripts that were relied upon. And so this afternoon, he's since issued this statement then, talking about the sections of the law that were relied upon by the state attorney at the time. And it's all steeped in legal jargon, Joe. I'm sure you'll agree with me that statement. So I called up a person whom I trust, who's a legal person, and essentially what he says to me is that all that this means, that the President has issued now, is that basically the former President, Jacob Zuma, at the time of the commission of these alleged offences, he was still a government official, and that is why, therefore, government would still fund him, or would fund his legal fees, because at the time of the commission of these offences, he was still an official of government. But the condition is exactly what you read on air in a moment ago, that this, of course, will be subject to him repaying the fees if he loses. Now, I think he even makes it clearer there, the President, that if he loses and it is found that he acted in his personal capacity, then he would have to repay the amount of money that government would have helped him with in relation to paying his legal fees. So
Xoli, how do we understand this? In the simplest terms, do we understand this as the state attorney concluding a deal with former President Thabo Mbeki to decide on this?
That's exactly what it sounds like, Joanne. State attorney at the time agrees, at the request, of course, that the former deputy president at the time, because that's what Jacob Zuma was at the time of his release from his official duties by former President Mbeki. He requests funding from government, that he ought to be funded, and so it is therefore, I guess, presumed that because he would have been a government official at the time of the commission of these offences, he was still a government official, so it's assumed that he was acting in his legal or in his official capacity. However, if the court finds that he acted privately and acted to pursue private interests, not just for himself, but those that he perhaps would have been in cahoots with, therefore he would have to repay government for all those legal fees that would have been paid to him or for him by the state. It's very interesting, Joe, because the President was very clear at the time that he explained this in Parliament, that this was an agreement that was reached back in 2006. At the time, former President Thabo Mbeki was in office, and at the time, Joe, the person who was running the office of the President, I've since found out that it was Trevor Fowler, who was the COO of the President's, in the President's office at that time. So Trevor Fowler, I've been trying to trace him, trying to track him down to find out from him, what the basis of this agreement was and what legal prescripts would they have relied on. And so today, when we're seeing this, it still, I guess, doesn't stop me from still getting Mr. Fowler to explain to us exactly what it is that he relied on when he was explaining this, or when this agreement was reached at the time. But it's just very interesting, the kind of the people that were involved in this, because Mr. Fowler is, one of those people that one would trust would have taken a sober judgment on these matters when he was concluding on these matters.
All right, so let's see. Xoli, I have no doubt you'll be able to manage to reach him a little bit later on. Let's try and hear from you later once you've got a bit more clarity on this. But thank you for presenting with us with exactly what you know so far, senior ENCA reporter Xoli Mngambi.